Hi, this is Mike Brown, owner of Death Wish Coffee Company. Welcome to Fueled by Deathcast.
I love Jeff, but sweet and high. Whoop, Mr. Motorama Coffee.
Death Wish Coffee presents Fueled by Deathcast, the world's strongest podcast. Get ready, the show's about to begin.
Welcome to Fueled by Deathcast. This is episode 152, or season 3, episode 48. And as always, I am the incredible Jeff, and I'd love it if you took a second and followed the show across all social media at Fueled by Deathcast on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. And if you're listening to this show, wherever you listen to podcasts, whether it's Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, Google Music, or watching it in full video on the Death Wish Coffee Company YouTube page, please take a second and hit that subscribe button. That is the best way to get notified when new episodes come out and all the new fun stuff that I get to do here at Fueled by Deathcast. And everything that is done by Fueled by Deathcast would be nothing, absolutely nothing, without the voice of death himself, Brock Powell. Brock Powell is the voice actor on this show and 1,000 voices out there in the world. Follow his journey through the industry that is voice acting across all social media at Brock Talks or at brockvox.com.
Secret code unlocked. Discount of death.
You heard the voice of death right there. For being a fan of Fueled by Deathcast, go on over to deathwishcoffee.com, pick up some of the world's strongest coffee and some of our amazing merchandise, and at checkout, type in the code discount of Jeff. All one word, discount of Jeff will save you 12% off every single purchase you make on deathwishcoffee.com. This week, I'm so proud to bring you an in-depth look at the iLEAD schools in California. This year, students at the iLEAD schools created an experiment that used Death Wish coffee and sent it to the astronauts at the International Space Station. And we actually chronicled that on a previous episode of Fueled by Deathcast, but when we were out there, both Thomas and myself got to actually tour multiple facilities of the iLEAD schools, meet the teachers, known as facilitators, and the students, known as learners, at iLEAD, and some of the administrators, including Amber Raskin and Dawn Evenson, the CEOs and creators of the iLEAD project-based learning schools. It's innovation of education, and it's so exciting. So I cannot wait for you all to check this out. And if you're just listening to this podcast, wherever you listen to podcasts, I 100% really recommend going on over to the Death Wish Coffee Company YouTube page and watching this episode in full, because you really get to get an eye into what iLEAD schools are and the students and teachers and administrators that are a part of it. So mugs up this week for everybody involved with the iLEAD schools.
The Fueled by Death guest.
iLEAD. It's an acronym, 5-letter acronym. International Leadership, Entrepreneurial Development, Arts, and Design Thinking. And those are kind of the 5 pillars of the way we do education.
My name is Amber Raskin, and I am founder and CEO, founder of iLEAD Schools and CEO of iLEAD Schools Development.
And I'm Dawn Evenson. I'm founder of iLEAD Schools and CEO of iLEAD California.
Wow. So can we talk a little bit, can we start at the beginning? Can we talk a little bit about finding this school? Because I've been talking to so many facilitators and learners and parents since I've been here, and I've never had a more mind-blowing experience at this school. It's just so eye-opening and so amazing. And to be able to talk to you two who started the whole thing, can we talk about how this came to be?
I was moved to Santa Clarita from Los Angeles for the community and the schools. And when I started, my daughter went to, my daughter's the older one and my son is 2.5 years younger than her. And we went to a very developmentally appropriate, philosophically aligned preschool that was just perfect for us. And they were having hands-on experiences where they were exploring and learning exactly the way I think learning should be, which is engaging, fun. And you can learn without even knowing you're learning by having fun, right? Mm-hmm. And so that was happening really nicely at that preschool. When we got to kindergarten, it was a whole different ballgame. We went to the district school near us, and it was a very good school, still is a very good school, considered one of the best in the state by traditional standards. But to me, it felt like there was far too much focus on the test. And this wasn't just that school. This is the whole
public school system
in the whole world, not even the country, not even just the country. And so I thought, wow, being somebody who didn't do well in school myself, I saw what was going to happen to my daughter because in kindergarten, I was told that she asked too many questions. At the parent-teacher conference, I was told that. And I thought, wow, looking at what was going on in the classroom, they were not going to foster creativity, which mattered so much to me. Being told that you're asking too many questions, in my opinion, shuts that down. Yeah. And so I thought, wow, I really need something different. So I started looking around, and I couldn't find anything. And so I thought, well, let me be part of the solution instead of part of the problem. And a little naively said, let's start a charter school. And I say naive because I didn't know at the time they didn't have things called suburban choice. They didn't think charter schools were supposed to go into suburban areas where schools were doing really well by the measures the state has put out. So I kept looking around and then decided to start this charter school based on a few different schools that I'd seen throughout the state. Wound up saying, why not just open a school for all, a public school for all, instead of going and spending my money on private school or homeschooling that's only going to benefit my kids. And that was about 13 years ago in the planning process, and 11 years ago our first school opened. And one piece that I often talk about is my late mother-in-law, who passed away a few years ago. She used to ask me after we opened the first school, why do you keep going? You started SCVI, your kids are covered, why do you keep going? And I say, well, it was never about me or my kids. It was never about just us. If I was only going to take care of just our kids, there were a lot of other much easier options. Yeah. And the reason I keep going is because of my experience in school. I didn't do well in school. I went to a very good school district and school also, and as did my kids in the early years of before our school was started. And in junior high and high school, I fell through the cracks. I tested into mentally gifted minors in elementary school, but when I got to junior high and it was a project that I didn't do well on, I started to feel not connected. I just never found my niche. I never found my passions. I never felt like anything that I did was meaningful. But then when I got out of school, and even when I worked during high school and college, I did well at work. There was something at work that was very different. It felt real, felt meaningful. I think I had more autonomy, definitely more respect. And then when I got into television, I did very well very quickly in my career there. I was looked at as an A there, where I wasn't in school. And so when I got to my daughter and I saw very quickly the same pattern was going to happen with her, I said, not again. I'm not going to let that happen again to her. And now I keep going because I don't want any 8th grader to feel the way I felt at that time. So that's what motivates me to keep going, and what made us a success is Dawn.
As you can tell, this is really deeply personal work for both of us. We wouldn't have lasted this long if there wasn't a strong why behind it, and if it didn't start with who we are as people. So that's why when we tell our stories, we talk not only about the organization that we've started, but we talk about who we are and how we got here, because that why is super important. I am one of those people that always knew that I wanted to be an educator, like from birth. In fact, it was weird to me that people grew up not knowing what they wanted to do. Like, I taught my stuffed animals, they did really great. I knew I was going to be a rock star at this. I spent hours honing my craft before I even entered school. So when I did enter school, it wasn't so great for me, mostly because I always looked at it from the being a school personnel, like being in the school and being a teacher. And I knew who was really great at what they did and who was not connected with the kids. And that was kind of pivotal for me. So I went through school just kind of hit in the middle. I was kind of like your C student. I always knew that I could do better, but it really didn't seem worth it to me. Like, why put out all that extra energy when it's not something that's, you're passionate about? So I went to college, of course, and graduated. And I grew up in North Idaho, and in order to get a job there, you have to wait for somebody to die. And one thing I'm not very patient. So I moved down to Southern California and I got my first teaching position. And I taught for 13 years and I was happy, super happy. It was fantastic. I could go in and shut my door and do what I wanted with the kids, and what I could respond to what they were interested in. I could respond to what they needed. And that was really important. And that's the art of teaching. The science is always there, but the art of teaching is being able to respond and keep kids engaged. So I was doing that for 13 years. So somewhere along the line towards, year 10, my principal called me in and he was talking to me and he said, "Have you ever thought about going into administration?" And I said, "Why would I want to do that?" And he said, "Because then you can make the impact that you're making on your class with more people." And I said, "Oh, okay." But that was great because that's the kind of person I am. I'm like, all right, get out of our way. We're going to make a difference here. So my superintendent came in, he said, "Have you ever considered going to middle school?" Now keep in mind, I'd always been like a primary grade teacher and my school was a K through 6 and I was again happy as a clam. And I said, "No, why would I want to go to middle school?" Because, we all know they're a little bit crazy there. And, and so, he said to me, "Well, because then you can do what you're doing here, but on a bigger level." And I said, "Oh," and I fell for it, hook, line, and sinker. So in this period of time that I was the principal at a middle school, I also had 3 teenage girls, and a couple of them are middle school. So it kind of made sense. Everything was nutty at that point. Everything was chaos, right? But my oldest daughter was getting ready to graduate from high school. And you get measured for your cap and gown. So I was taking her to get measured for her cap and gown at her high school, which is in a different district. It's an international baccalaureate high school. And one thing you should know about my daughter is that she was always deemed highly successful. She was graduating with a 4.3 GPA. She lettered in 3 varsity sports, which to make a sports team at a high school of 4,000 kids is difficult in itself. Amen. And we always got letters that deemed her successful, superintendent's list and the dean's list and all these kinds of things. So she was deemed highly successful. Unlike her mother, let me point out, because I was just that C. I'm just going to cruise along that C. She was jumping through every hoop she possibly could to be the best that she could. So I'm driving her to go and get her gown. And she was getting a yellow gown instead of the blue gown because the yellow gown is for those kids that they've sorted and selected into the higher ranks. And I turned to her and I said, "Oh, Emily, I am so proud of you." And she turned to me and she said, "I don't know why." And I said, "Well, what do you mean?" And she said, "I just learned to give the teachers back what they wanted." And in that moment, it hit me. It still hits me a little bit. In that moment, it hit me because here was a successful child who was deemed highly successful and had no idea who she wanted to be and who she was. All she knew was how to win at the game of school.
Yeah.
And I was part of that problem. I was part of that problem as her mother, and I was part of that problem as an educator. So let me breathe for a second. Okay, now my voice can be normal. And so, and I did what anybody would do in that moment that cares about education and cares about their kids. I had a mini midlife crisis. I don't believe in suffering, so it only lasted for a week, and it went like this. I'd go to the crazy middle school, and I'd work with those kids all day, and I'd feel crazy, and I knew I had to hold it together because I couldn't be crazy. And then I would go home and I would cry, and my husband would say, "I just want you to be happy, whatever it takes to be happy." So then I would get on the internet after everybody went to bed, finished their homework. I'd get on the internet and I'd Google things like, what happens if you love education and you hate schools? And this was 2008, so there wasn't a lot of out-of-the-box articles out there, so I wasn't really hitting or finding my tribe or my people. But what did happen was I came across a posting for a founding charter school principal. So I'm like, I wonder what this is. So I emailed the email on this posting and said, "I don't know if you filled this position yet, but I'm interested in finding out more." And then I got up to leave the computer and a message came back to me, not like a instant reply, but like a real true message, because at the other end of that computer was Amber, who was looking for someone to be able to run her school.
I was saying to the computer, apply. So I didn't have anybody.
And the reply said, we haven't filled it. We're still interested. Please send us your resume and cover letter. I met with Amber and the rest of the board, and then they decided to hire me. And then we ended up at charter school boot camp for a week with each other. We were each other's roommates, and we were finishing each other's sentences, even though we really didn't know each other. And people kept saying, "Are you sure you guys don't know each other?" And we would say no. So for your listeners, your viewers, whatever they're called, I would say that if you find someone that is finishing your sentences when you really don't even know them, and you've taken that leap of faith, and this was something that was definitely meant to be. And so from there, we moved forward and we started our first school with, I think we had about 75 kids on the first day, and we ended with 135. So we knew that what we were doing had really caught on.
There is something so special about what Dawn brings to the table to continue to say we should be out of the box. We can't look like any traditional school. If other schools are doing it, why should we even bother? Because we exist to innovate, and we can keep innovating. And she keeps that candle burning to make sure that we are always looking at what are we doing differently? What are we adding to education that's not already there?
Wow.
All right, I'm Angelo, and I'm in 8th grade.
I'm Dominic, and I'm in 8th grade.
And I know it looks like we're in the Civil War right now, but this is 2019. But you guys get to do something really incredible here at iLEAD concerning the Civil War with the way you look right now. Can we talk about what this project is all about?
Well, when people ask you, like, what happened back then, like, you have to explain it to them, and they might not get the full picture. So what reenacting does is that it gives you a living image of what happened. And so we went through countless and countless of hours of research to get everything correct. And
just to get this down, to make it look realistic for every viewer that's going to be there.
You guys look real. Like,
thank you.
For real. And did you make these costumes?
No, we actually, I fundraised money to purchase my uniform.
How'd you do that?
So I sold Otter Pops for $1.
Awesome.
I sold 1,000 of them.
Whoa.
Yeah.
My uniform was $600. All the leather accessories that I have is were $200.
Wow.
And I donated $200 back to the school.
Wow.
Well, back to 8th grade. Yeah.
Wow. Can you tell me a little bit about who you are in the Civil War? Because I noticed you both have different patches and you both are in different colors.
Well, I am a sergeant quartermaster. That's my rank. I am a Berdan sharpshooter. They were the Civil War snipers.
Whoa.
Believe it or not, yes. They had the whole thing. They had scopes about this long. They had special rifles called the Sharps. It was a breech loader and had 2 triggers. One was to get it ready, and then the second was a hair trigger.
Yeah. Wow. Wow. How about you?
I'm a corporal. I'm in the 54th Massachusetts. That's a special all-black regiment, the first one ever.
Wow.
And yeah, we're both Union soldiers, so.
That is incredible. So can we talk a little bit about what you guys get to do in this reenactment? It's not all just you're fighting each other, are you?
No. So we actually have different science roles. So I'm doing a telegraph project where one of the dads actually created a telegraph, 2 telegraphs, and we're gonna use wires and we're gonna make wet cell batteries and we're just gonna do a whole hands-on demonstration, so.
Wow.
And I'm part of black powder. So what we did is we researched all the stuff that goes into the black powder, the composition of black powder, how it was made back then. We also found how to find the force of a bullet. Finding the formula for that. It's one math.
Like, I learned about the Civil War, but it was a picture in a book. That's it. That's all I know. And even stuff that you guys are telling me, I had no idea about, and you guys are getting to live it. Did it make you like learning about it more?
Oh, for sure,
yes.
yeah.
So
and
it's
helped
like
with my memory of it too. Like, I'm gonna never forget this, I feel like.
Yeah, I'm actually starting to get into actual reenacting. I was at just this weekend, I was at Fort Tejon reenacting. Well, I was actually a Confederate then. Yeah. I just got sworn into the 1st North Carolina Cavalry.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Yep.
That is really, really cool. Do you think you'll continue to learn about the Civil War even after this?
Oh yeah, for sure. There's a lot of information.
You never stop learning.
That's incredible. And what an incredible story, too, because, like I said, I've gotten to tour a lot of your facilities. I've gotten to meet with students and teachers, and a lot of people have the same story, you know, that looking for something better. And speaking with some of the kids who have been through the public school system and then are now at iLEAD, and with that perspective, because it was also amazing talking to some of the kids who have literally been at iLEAD since kindergarten or now in high school, and like they have a completely different perspective.
Yeah.
When did you start here?
I started in 1st grade. Yeah, I started in kindergarten.
And you are in
9th grade now.
Ninth grade? Ninth grade now? So do you love the school?
Oh yeah.
It's definitely like my home.
Yeah?
Home, yeah.
What is what is it about this school that, if for someone who's never heard of this school, what would you say about this school, like to kind of like get them excited about it?
Well, this school's pretty much like project-based learning. It gives us a lot of opportunities to kind of grow and a lot of freedom to kind of express who we are. And also the community between teachers and students and other students is just really great here.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's just definitely somewhere that you want to be because of the community, and the people here are just great, and they really care about you and the way you learn, and they just want the best for you.
So there are 4 classrooms in here, and they are 5 mixed in homerooms. And so yeah, we have a little bit of we have an interesting way of learning here. And the thing is, since it's 4th and 5th mixed in homeroom, this side of the room, these 2 teachers are co-teachers, and on that side of the room, those 2 teachers are co-teachers. So they'll work together with lesson planning, and they'll have their students learn together. So for math, the 5th graders from both of those classrooms will go over there for math, and the 4th graders from both of those classrooms will go here for math. And that's making sure that they're learning at that required grade level, and that they are learning at the expectations for their grade level.
That is super exciting.
So it's pretty cool because it's unlike anything you'll see anywhere else, and it's really incredible way to learn in such a unique way that it's incredible that we get to experience this and be. So I'm really grateful to be able to have an opportunity and to do this. So yeah.
I gotta ask that you seem to like school.
I do. Yeah. So actually I have never like been like, oh, I want to go to school until I started here, which was actually I just started here this year.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So at my old school, I wasn't a fan, and it's just because the teachers aren't very nice at usually schools. They're not as flexible as they are here, and all they think about is worksheets. And as I mentioned here, we have most of our things that we do here. Most of the education is hands-on academic learning, which is incredible because, as I said, not a lot of schools have the opportunity to do that. So yeah, that's pretty awesome because here the teachers not only think about how you're doing academically, but obviously that matters a lot, but they also have they're very helpful with the social emotional, and we have ILP goals, which are individual learner plans. So everybody has them, not just the students, but all of our staff members have them as well, which is pretty incredible because it feels amazing to accomplish a goal once you worked so hard for it, and we want everybody to be able to have that sense of pride and enjoyment and we want everyone to work forward because everybody can improve, and we want to make sure that everybody gets to their best level that they can be.
It's really, really inspiring and amazing to see what you guys have built. And the other side of that I wanted to bring up is the teacher side of it. Like, both of you have this story where you wanted to do this, didn't really know what you were doing, and you got into it, both feet forward, and went for it. And I've noticed, speaking with a lot of the teachers that I got to speak with, some of these teachers had no experience in a teacher background before working at iLEAD. And you guys are inclusive, not even just to have, let's get every kid that we possibly can come to iLEAD, but you have that same mentality with the teacher space too, the facilitators. And I think that is absolutely incredible because you get a lot of people who are going to think outside of the box, who aren't weighed down by that public school system for decades or whatever. And I met some of them too who now work for iLEAD and are so incredibly excited to be a part of this organization. But just meeting some people who are teaching here, and it's like, I asked a couple of them, like, what did you do before? And it's like, well, I never taught before for iLEAD, and now I've been here for 4 years or 2 years, and I never thought of anything else. That's incredible.
I've worked with iLEAD, this is my 4th year.
Wow.
So I teach biology for 9th graders right now, and physics, IB physics, so mostly juniors.
So what brought you to this organization?
I like the way that it's project-based learning in real world, and there's a lot of opportunity to do things that you don't really get to do in a traditional school setting. So certainly being able to do a lot of those different kinds of things is really helpful and makes learning more fun and more engaging. Also, mostly I just fell in love with the kids.
I'm a mom first, so I always start from that point and just build those kind of relationships. So I joke around with my kids a lot, but it's always from a mom point of view. And so they feel really comfortable in my classroom setting. So when we get into projects like the one that we're into right now, which is our Resilient Cafe project, it's a project that requires them to really dig deep. Talking about resilience, things that they've personally gone through that they may not like to share with other people. But I've been able to every year just pull that out of them, where kids are talking about abandonment or abuse that they've witnessed and gone through, and using those to empower them to create poetry pieces that they present, like slam poetry and spoken word presentations. So it's been awesome. And then we just finished working on our Sustainable Growing Practices project, where my kids learn how to create eco-columns, and this sustained by a freshwater plant and freshwater fish and snails. And so their plants are growing from that. But now we're taking that project a little farther, and we'll be talking to one of our representatives, Katie Hill, and trying to implement that within the community for our homeless community, which is growing rapidly. And we have 3 locations here in the Antelope Valley, so we're going to try to create gardens in their spaces where the homeless residents will be the ones sustaining and maintaining it, and possibly can be able to use that in the farmers market that we have once a week. So
how easy it is for the kids to pick up a computer and do a quote-unquote hard assignment or hard computer software, and to pick it up naturally.
Wow. And is it kids of all ages?
Yeah, I have classes from K to 8th grade. Some of the middle schoolers that have the stigma of, I don't want to do anything with computers, they're picking up computer programming and they're going great with it, and they're saying, I want to start doing this for when I grow up. I want to start using this and applying it more seriously. So that's always something that's really cool.
The kids can do anything in here, from sewing all the way up to a little bit of metalworking. It just depends on the project they want to do and the donations that we get from the parents or whatever they want to do.
Right.
So they can come to me with an idea to make like a clock, and we'll put plans together. If they can't afford the materials, we find a way to fundraise it, get donations so they can put it together. We have a couple after school programs, we have clubs. I have kids making clocks, picture frames, all sorts of things.
You can see Robert's teaching them a lot more than just woodworking and safety. He's teaching them some of those really valuable skills like entrepreneurialism. A lot of the stuff that the kids build, they end up flipping and selling. They sell for fundraisers for our school. But then he also teaches them things like community resourcing, community organizing. When they need materials, they figure out who's got materials and what do you need to do in order to be able to go access those. And so he teaches them the basics of a business pitch or getting volunteers in here to help out. And so, yeah, the kids have learned through Robert to be just extremely resourceful, and a lot of the stuff that they have in here is a product of them learning to access the different resources in their community.
It's important to note for the public school advocates that those people who haven't worked in education before still get a credential and still get all of the proper training. It's just important to note.
Oh yeah, no, you're not throwing them to the wolves.
Well, because some people say that we don't have credentialed teachers, so we want to make sure that that part gets there.
And also important to note, it's semantics, but it's important in this political climate that we recognize that we are public schools.
Yes.
You're talking about traditional district schools,
yes.
And we are also public schools. But we do it differently.
But we'll bring it back to your point, which is that we absolutely look for mindset and cultural fit first. That is the most important thing that we do. What we are is a culture. What we are providing is a culture and a mindset. And it's a very different culture and mindset than what school has been traditionally. So when we are interviewing for any position or talking even to kids and parents, we want to make sure that we're setting them up for success by letting them know who and what we are and what we're about and what matters to us. And that is culture and mindset. And the culture mindset that we have, which is that things are open. Our mission statement is free to think, inspired to lead. Free to think, free to speak your mind, free to try things, we're intentionally setting up an atmosphere like what you hear Google's like, or Zappos, or some of them. We've studied those companies, and we intentionally set up our systems so that we are creating a culture where people feel comfortable trying things, innovating, and it doesn't always work. And that's okay.
Yeah.
And the reason that people feel okay about that is because we also work very hard to create emotional safety, so people don't feel like they're going to be slapped on the hand all the time if they try something and it doesn't work.
And so that is important because it sets the stage for empowerment. And that's ultimately what we do. We empower our learners to figure out what path they want to take and what they're interested in, and how they understand that they can affect the world in a positive way starting as early as kindergarten. So that's really important to us, and it's about the kids, but it's also empowering our parents to come in and make a difference. It's also empowering all of our employees to come in and make a difference and make decisions and have that autonomy that needs to happen in order to do what's right for kids.
Yeah.
And another thing that I think is really important to us that we sort of naturally have gravitated to, being the having the background that Dawn and I have, because this is a passion for us, is that it has to have meaning. Things need to have meaning. I mean, this generation is all about meaning and purpose, right? I mean, remember that bumper sticker, like, he who dies with the most toys wins? That like makes you bristle now, right?
Yeah.
Like, that is so, life is not about that anymore.
Not at all.
Life is about contributing and giving back. And certainly this generation, I think everybody, but this generation especially, is really finding ways to focus on that. And that's important because we want our kids we want school to be meaningful. We don't want them to feel like, finished that, don't want to go to school, I have to get through it. We want them to find their meaning, create meaning for themselves and for others. And so starting in kindergarten, they can do that.
Yeah.
It's not up to us as adults to tell them what is meaningful to them. They know from early on. In fact, I would argue that the traditional way we've been teaching pushes that out of them.
Totally.
And so now what we're trying to do is not lose that as they get older. We don't want them to lose their creativity. We don't want them to lose their purpose and meaning and wonder and curiosity as they get older. It's so important for us that we get out of the way and let that flourish at any age.
What's your favorite thing about being a part of this school?
Ooh.
I know it's tough.
Well, there's a lot of things that I personally enjoy coming from a very different educational background. One of the biggest things I love about this school and being here in general is all the opportunities we're given, because just like, for example, this kind of stuff, being able to go to NASA, being able to be involved with projects like this, it's something that I never even thought was possible back in my old school.
Yeah.
And so that's a huge thing.
That's incredible.
For me, it's just a freedom to sort of like be able to arrange myself in my own classes and be able to really have a personal connection with my teachers and really like be able to dig in deep into subjects I'm interested in. Because I have a lot of friends who go to different schools and they just sort of like float by and do what's asked, but like going here I can really dig deep and really like I can get passionate about what I'm doing, and my teachers are the ones that sort of influence that and are influencing me to always do my best in whatever I can do.
I just love the freedom that it gives me. I'd heard you talking earlier about how like if a kid wants to learn about space, they can learn about space, and that's really what I'm doing.
What drew you to iLEAD?
You know, so the program that I had before was project based, but it was in this kind of like square peg round hole.
Okay.
Like I was trying to make something fit and something that didn't fit. And so then when I met Kath, and then when I met our founder Dawn, and I did some touring around the campus, I spent some time with David, and I spent some time on the campus. I'm like, this is it. There's no square peg round hole. This is it. And so it was like kismet, right? Because this was like my dream school. Like anything that what I could have made up in my mind, this was it.
I would have thrived in a school like this.
Me too.
Yeah.
Me too.
I love coming here because the projects are just so like they're not just like a normal like write an essay and then present it to the class. It's definitely something that you are just like, I don't know how to explain it.
Excited for
yeah,
them.
like you're excited and you want to learn about it, and it definitely helps apply you for later future events, and you can make it very personal to you, to something that you can relate to other than just like write the essay about the same thing and everyone writes and presents it to the class. It's definitely something you all relate to personally, and it affects everyone differently.
Awesome. That's awesome. For you, anything?
Yeah, for me, it's definitely like the community. Like the people around me always make me excited to come here. Like both of us are staff kids. Like our family is everywhere around this school. So,
So you can't escape your family.
So we kind of like anywhere we go, we kind of see people that like we're excited to see, or we get to meet new people that it like gives us really cool opportunities. So for me, it's definitely community.
And so that's why we call our teachers facilitators, because we want them to facilitate learning, to get next to the learners and learn right along with them about whatever it is that's interesting to them or for the class or within that project. There are people who have told us all along, oh, you're not doing this right, you're not doing school right. And that makes us feel great, because we beg to differ. And if you really dig deep in the practices of our organization, we have put them in place very intentionally, because the way that faculty is evaluated lends itself to how they're working with the kids and how they're looking and viewing, evaluating kids. Yeah. So you have to be very intentional about how you lay things out. And we have within our evaluation system, for example, a lot of reflection, because that's really important to us.
I'm so inspired by the kids themselves.
Yeah.
Because, in iLEAD, they're taught that just ask, go for it. You have an idea, go for it. And they can, and it's always a yes. It's always a yes and, it's the idea of, okay, you want to do this. Well, what's it going to take to do this? How are we going to make this happen? What's the purpose of making this happen? And you guys have both said multiple times about the passion, the passion of learning and the passion of that. And that is a lot of what Death Wish Coffee is all about. We want to fuel people's passion. That is one of our biggest tenets in our company. It's not just about getting you a good cup of coffee, which we enjoy that as well.
It's really important.
But it is very important. But we want to fuel your passion. And the theme of this actual show is Fueled by Death. We are all fueled by the idea that we want to leave the world a little different before we inevitably leave it for good. And these kids are learning that from every single day, from kindergarten on. And some of the examples of seeing that on campus were just mind-blowing. It goes down to the core of the learner and the facilitator are actually partners. It's not a teacher-student thing anymore, which is incredible, because that's technically how the real world works. And I've talked about this with other people that I've talked about since I've met here, that, as part of traditional school, I remember first couple days, freshman on a college campus, I was completely fish out of water. I had no idea how to navigate anything, because you've got traditional high school and now I'm on a college campus. I was just like, what do I do? Who's gonna help me do this? The kids that are going through iLEAD are already prepared for that and beyond, because it is a real world setting. That's the core of what I think the learners are even learning. Not just their curriculum, not just all the knowledge that they're getting to be a part of, but just how to exist in the real world and make the real world a better place. And that's exciting.
They need to practice that in their high school and elementary and middle school years, because if they don't practice it when they've got loving support at home and at school, then they spend a lot more time making mistakes where there's no safety net.
Right.
It's important to let them do that when they're young.
Yeah. And now iLEAD, cut to 2019, you, correct me if I'm wrong, there are 8 schools?
There's 6 in California.
6 in California.
And next year there will be 3 outside of California.
So 9 total, which is incredible. What do you guys think how can we get it to be more? How can we get 900 schools? How can we get this into the national consciousness?
Ted Fujimoto.
Yeah.
No, I think it takes all of us seeing what's possible, like visiting our schools, seeing what's possible, and then influencing politics, honestly.
Yeah.
Because I think that we're measuring the wrong things in politics. I think that they need to measure, and I understand that. But we're measuring things that are from the last century. We're measuring the skill set to thrive and do well now has completely changed with being able to learn everywhere. Back in the day, when we set up classrooms the way they are, having the person in front of the room delivering information, books were expensive and scarce. And so one person who could read would read the book and deliver the information.
Right.
And then when more and more people learned to read, then they read books. But now we know books are scarce again in a different way. And so now the whole way we do school needs to be shifted and reevaluated, and what we're measuring needs to be reevaluated. We've set up our schools to be very competitive. In our society where people care most about meaning and giving to others, that competitive environment, that lends itself to being cutthroat, to the Varsity Blues scandal that we saw, like things like that people aren't interested in that anymore.
And when she says we, she means the education system in general, not iLEAD schools. I just want to make sure that your listeners understand that.
I got that.
We're about collaboration. Yeah, totally.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. And that is exactly what I meant. So as a society, we have to reevaluate what we're putting an emphasis on. We can't do business as usual anymore. We have to reevaluate how we're nurturing these kids and watering and fertilizing them to grow into the meaning makers and the people who are looking to really make society better by helping other people. That we need to reevaluate that.
Yeah.
So, let me turn the tables and ask you a question. When you met with our learners, do you think that they're learning?
Yeah, I think more than I ever learned. And it's an effortless learning because they are almost having fun doing it. You know, they learn something and then are able to extrapolate on that and go farther if they want,
articulate,
or take it to a different area.
So how do we measure that? Because right now, schools are all measured on a narrow band of standards that are meant to happen during just that school year. And so if someone's above those standards, they're not going to do so well on those particular standards because maybe
they're boring.
That they're a little boring sometimes, but maybe they're interested in Asia, and that doesn't happen until 9th grade. And in 8th grade, they're learning about the Civil War, but they're really interested in Asia. If they don't learn about the Civil War, then when they take the test, they don't have that knowledge to really rock that test. But if you asked them anything about Asia, they could do it. If you ask them if they could start a business, or if they feel empowered, or if they know that they can change the world, the trick is, how do we measure that? Because we've never had one person come and visit all of our schools that said, there's no learning happening here. These kids are just hanging around.
It's always a game changer when people visit in person. They can see it when they go in person. When you look at us through the lens of all the traditional measures, people without visiting, people sometimes are like, oh, I don't know. But when they come, it always shifts their mindset.
Yeah, it's a shame, that traditional school hasn't figured this out yet, just because of the fact that the job space has changed drastically, and we're talking in the last century. I'm talking even the last couple decades.
Yeah.
Whereas the schools are still based on go to school, get a piece of paper that says you go to school, and then give that piece of paper to an employer who is now going to employ you for that school. And that is not how it works across the board anymore.
Right.
And I always used to say, I'm a product of the 80s. I was in the school, system in the 80s. So I remember the first computer classrooms, when we got our first computer and had, to learn that kind of stuff. Yeah. And you go to some traditional schools and it's still that one classroom with a few computers in it, and that's it.
Right.
It's not like, think of the entire industry that's built around the computer-based, industry now, and it's not even taught,
Right,
But you go to something like iLEAD, and it's I saw the other day in the makerspace, kids had went in there and was like, I want to build a video game system, like the old arcade system. I played on it, and that's just incredible. It's like, I want to learn how to do that, and they did, and I didn't do well, but I played on it, and it was amazing. They had tons of games. It was incredible. I think that is so inspiring, and it needs to be more into the public consciousness.
And let me just say that there are some district schools that are doing that, and and in all district schools there are some pockets of that happening, but it's not happening widespread enough. I agree, and if it's imperative that we continue to try to figure it out.
And I also want to say that we do teach kids to read and write and do math. It's not just do whatever you want and follow your passions. I mean, you have to have some fundamental skills in order to springboard to those other things that you want to do.
I'll tell you, the two things that surprised me the most talking to a lot of the learners was, one, every single one of them loved school. In fact, a lot of them, I was like, are you guys excited about summer? Sort of. I'm going to miss school. And it's just like, wow, And the other one is I would always ask, what's your favorite subject in school? 50% of them said math. That's incredible.
Yeah, that fills my bucket in so many ways.
Yeah, totally. Favorite class, favorite subject?
For me, it's math. I don't know. I really applied myself hard in math, and I had some struggles, but I overcame them, and I just really like math.
Mine is actually also math, just because it's kind of like the thing I feel like I can teach myself more about. And it's definitely something I feel confident in.
It seems to be, there's a vibe here that everybody kind of likes school. You guys like school?
Yeah.
It's kind of weird.
Because I just came to this school, and ever since I came, I absolutely loved it.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, so down the line, favorite subject in school?
History.
ELA.
What was that?
ELA. English language arts.
Oh, okay. English? Science.
Probably film.
Really?
Yeah, but I definitely really like biology too.
Cool. What's your favorite subject?
Math and chemistry. I enjoy chemistry a lot.
My favorite subject probably have to be language arts.
Really?
Yeah, because I love reading and I love spelling. So
awesome.
Yeah, and it's incredible to learn because English is such an interesting language.
I think what iLEAD is doing and what you guys have built is needed. It's imperative. It is what we need to be gravitating towards, and you guys are doing a great job, keeping going in that, and keep, like you said, you're going to keep doing it. Like, there's no reason to it's not just for your own kids. It's for everybody to be included in this. Facilitators, learners, the parents, the communities, everything. And I cannot wait to see what is in the future for iLEAD. And I can't thank you guys enough for taking time and talking to me about this.
Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for your partnership.
Absolutely.
Thank you for taking the time to tour our schools, and thank you for interviewing us today.
Excellent.
This has been Fueled by Deathcast, a Death Wish Coffee Company podcast production. Thanks for listening.